Okay guys, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Plague Marines. I feel like in my longer video that I did, I spent too much time complaining about the weapon option situation and not really enough time saying what I thought was good about them and the uses that they have. For me, I said in that video that they're my core personally. I think they're the spine of the back, the Death Guard army. I use them over Poxwalkers or Cultists. I think that even for something like sitting on objectives, they're still a better choice. And I think that there's probably four main ways to run them. Obviously, you can run them any way that you want, but there's four main ways I would look at them. And the first one is the cheapest option, is just running with bolters and plague knives. I think this is a really good option in itself. I don't think that you need to upgrade them necessarily. The plague knives are AP-1 now to keep in line with the Astartes chainswords. They count as being stationary all the time, so all their bolters are going to be double tapping, so you're going to get 10 shots from a 5-man unit and 20 shots from a 10-man unit. And you can take the Sigil of Decay, which will get automatic wounds on 6s to hit. And you could put them near a Tallyman with the Tollkeeper, and that's extra hits on 6s. But what I would do with these is I like to move my Plague Marines up quite fast. Normally use Rhinos. You don't have to. You can put them on the board if you want to and just foot slog them up. But in any case, I think that the point of the Plague Marines is to have them really just up there in the centre of the board, being an aggressive force but also slightly defensive and just really trying to take and hold ground. I personally prefer to have quite a lot of them in the same place. I know a lot of people like to sort of spread them out, and you'll see one squad on this side of the table and one squad on the other side of the table and maybe one in the middle. I like to just straight up have 2 or 3 squads just really locking down an entire quarter of the table altogether. And I think that the just bolter and plague knife works really well because there's a couple of stratagems that you can use to really just boost the performance. Obviously you've got virulent rounds to make the bolters plague weapons. That's mainly useful if you're going for Archer Contaminator. I normally would. 12 inches, the limitation to 12 inches, it's a shame, but it's not bad. You may well be within 12 inches. But really the reason I'd go for this still is because you've got both the Trench Fighters and the Creeping Blight stratagems. 1 CP each. Trench Fighters just gives you an extra attack with the Plague Knife, so your unit of 10 guys would have 20 attacks normally, now it would have 30 attacks. And if you needed it as well, Creeping Blight is of course a -4 AP on 6s to wound. So if you really need to cut through a squad of Marines or something, you can just spend 2 CP on both of them, probably cut through them fairly well. And then, it doesn't cost much. The 21 points each, 210 points for 10 of them. I would take probably, like I said, 2 or 3 units of those, have them fairly close together. And that's just solid. That's really good. You can't do much better than that. I think they're going to be more than a match for probably most other infantry they come across. I think that's really solid. But otherwise, if you want to upgrade them, there's probably 3 other good builds. I would say one of them is that they're now able to take 2 Plague Belchers and 2 Plague Spewers. So you would have 4d6 automatic hits, 2d6 of them at strength 4 AP nothing, and 2d6 of them at strength 5 AP -1. I'd use that in a Rhino for sure. Just have 10 of them in the Rhino, blast it up somewhere, and just jump out at the right time and maybe scorch something off an objective or out of my way. I would probably, if I was going to run that, I'd go for the Chosen Sons in Mortarion, so I could use a stratagem to make them 2 damage each if I wanted to. Also potentially the Warlord trait from that same battalion detachment, where you ignore cover. So whether you have your Warlord nearby, or you could spend 2 CP on Flash Outbreak, I think it is. Flash Outbreak, I'm pretty sure. Where they would essentially gain that Warlord trait on their own unit, and also count as being 1 contagion level higher, so he doesn't need to be nearby. I think that if you did something like that, 46 auto hits, you know, some of them now, you know, ignoring cover, damage 2, or you could go for one of the other battalions where I think you get -1 AP. Is it the Harbingers? No, it's the Exonerable. Yeah, the Exonerable. They've got a good stratagem where you subtract 2 from charge rolls. So again, if you have this unit getting up quite close, that could be good to stop you from getting countercharged. But mainly Ferric Blight is what I was also thinking, because that one, when you attack units within your contagion range, the armor penetration is improved by 1. So the normal plague sprayers would be AP -1, and the plague spewers would be AP -2 at that point. You know, can't be damage 2 as well, but it depends what you're up against. I think that that's pretty good. Another build which is surprisingly good, and it's just so weird how they've done the war gear now, because it's, you know, it's limited in some ways but also quite open in other ways. And one way you can really pack a lot of weapons into a unit is taking 3 plasma guns and 2 blight launchers, because you can have 2 blight launchers on normal guys, and you can have 2 plasma guns on normal guys, and a 3rd plasma gun on the champion. And if you had a unit like that, you know, whether it's 1 unit, 2 units, or even 3 units, all with the Sigil of Decay, of course, for automatically wound you on 6s to hit. Again, you would definitely put that near the Tallyman with the Tollkeeper, so they're getting extra hits on 6s to hit. And also you can choose a unit, give them +1 to hit. It could help with the plasma, and it's just going to help anyway. I think that's, you know, that also, it's more like an extension of the first unupgraded idea. It's taking that same thing for me and just giving it some more aggressive, some more damage output. Because again, I would take probably, you know, 2. I wouldn't just take 1 unit and try to make that its own thing. I would probably take 2 or a good 3 units of those and have them all together in the same sort of area, and just create a bulwark that has, you know, 10 bolter shots coming out of each squad, 6 plasma shots coming out of each squad, and 4 blight launcher shots coming out of each squad. You know, maybe re-rolling to hit for 1s if you have a lord nearby or something. Getting extra hits, getting auto wounds. That's really solid, and I've got 1 unit equipped like that. I think I'm probably going to have to get at least 1 more so I could do 2 units like that. That's definitely that's more costly, of course, but I think it's worth it. And you know, that's a lot of damage output, especially if you were overcharging the plasma, so it's 2 damage. The blight launchers are 2 damage. You'd still be getting 10 bolter shots from the 5 guys with bolters. That's really good. And then the last main idea that I would use myself is you know, a combat squad, 10 guys. It's you know, it's maybe a shame for some people if you liked to do the fluffy 7-man units. It's kind of tough now to do that, but I never did anyway, luckily, because I'm too much of a power gamer, so I didn't want the disadvantage. I've always liked units of 10, so you know, with these, this would be your 2 Great Plague Cleavers, your 2 Flails of Corruption, your 2 Maces of Contagion and Bubotic Axes. It's up to you really whether you would continue paying for another 2 Bubotic Axes. They're only 3 points now, I think, so it's probably worth it, but you don't have to. You could just go for the Plague Knives. And I do go for a Power Fist on the champion. I just think that it's nice to have one on there. But with the way that the new upgrades work, if you wanted to, you could spend, with the new stratagems, if you wanted to, you could spend a CP to give the Plague Champion the, what was it, Plague Bringer? I think it's the Plague Bringer. Yeah, because you can give this actually to a unit champion now, I think, or am I completely wrong? So you could give them the Plague Bringer if you wanted to, and then you've got a champion. It would only be 3 attacks with it. I don't know if it's worth spending a CP on, but if it's your 1 dedicated combat unit, it could definitely be worth spending on, because you'll still be wounding Marines on 2s at strength 6. Then it's AP -3 and damage 2, and each casualty counts as 2. So if you are running in a 1 dedicated combat unit, it could well be worth spending a CP to give your champion the Plague Bringer. Otherwise a Power Fist is fine. And of course, you know, you use the damage spillover stratagem. It's only 1 command point. It's brilliant. I can't imagine how much damage it would do if you rolled well. I might do a quick test in a minute. You know, if you were near a biologist putrefier, you'd be getting mortal wounds on 6s. As well, you know, you can't have blades of putrefaction anymore. They got rid of that, but you can almost replicate it with the biologist putrefier's ability now for mortal wounds on 6s. So, you know, and like I said, I would run that in a termite. I haven't got one yet. I'm going to have to buy one, but I would run it in a termite with 1 or 2 extra characters, because I think that there's other abilities. Like I also, in my other video, I said the Demon's Toll was a good idea. I'd go for the Noxious Blightbringer with the Demon's Toll and a Biologist Putrefier with the 10 guys. But you don't have to. You know, I think 10 of them on their own in a Rhino would be absolutely fine. It just depends whether you want to have a good unit or completely overcommit to a, you know, potentially silly unit that you probably don't need, honestly. I expect even a basic unit in a Rhino without any characters is still going to get the job done most of the time. Let me just do this. Let's have a go. You can skip over this if you don't want to watch it. I'm going to have a go anyway. So, you know, you'd have 6 attacks. Oh, because that's one thing. I did mention it in my longer video, but just again in this one. You get an extra attack if you have 2 plague melee weapons. Now, it's important not to forget the plague knife, because it's not, in the old book, it was just for models that had either 2 plague knives or the plague bubotic axe and mace of contagion, because that was your 2 plague melee weapons. But now that it's worded this way, you would also have a plague knife and flail of corruption, or a plague knife and great plague cleaver. So they would also technically have 2 plague weapons, and they would go up to 3 attacks as well. So let's assume that you've got 2 great plague cleavers. So he's got 3 attacks, the other guy's got 3 attacks. You've used the stratagem that allows damage to spill over. So you're going to hit on 3s, let's say. I'm going to assume there's no rerolls for 3s. So that was really bad. I've missed 4 times. And then you wound on 2s, but you can reroll. So that's 2 wounds with the great plague cleavers. They are AP minus 3. So that is now 2d6 damage going through. Already that's 7 damage, and that was with missing 4 out of 6. I've missed 4 out of 6, and I've still got 7 damage through. So if you're doing this damage spillover stratagem, I mean, you know, that's 3 Space Marines dead and 1 wound left over, or 7 Orc Boys, or 7 Guardsmen or anything, and that was with terrible rolling. Imagine if I'd have only missed 2 and actually got 4 wounds through, like I really should have done. And then of course you've got 3 attacks for each plague flail guy, but they get to make, is it 2 hit rolls? 2 hit rolls, so that's 6, 12 from each plague flail guy. Again, I'm going to roll 3 ups with no re-rolls, so ooh, pretty bad. Don't know what's going on with me today. And then you're going to wound on 3s, I think, because you'll be strength 5, yeah. So it's AP minus 2. So that's another 3 failed saves, that's another 6 damage, because it's 2 damage. And then you've got 3 attacks with each mace of contagion. All hit. 1 wound to reroll. You're wounding on 2s with that, because it makes you strength 6. It's only AP minus 1. So if we're fighting Space Marines, they just failed 1. But still, that's 3 damage. I rolled terribly. And I even rolling terribly, I'd still managed to cause, easily enough damage to wipe an entire squad. If you rolled well, the damage is going to be catastrophic. And I can't wait to use it myself. I think it's going to be amazing. I think what I'm going to say is I would probably, in my own army, maybe have, let's say, 1 squad with the 2 blight launchers, 3 plasma guns, 2 more full 10-man plague marine squads armed with bolters and plague knives, and then a fourth squad with the melee loadout in a rhino. And what I would do is have the 3 main squads together somewhere, really try to take over a sector of the board and just stay there, and then I'd have the the melee squad in the Rhino, probably zoom up the board somewhere. Maybe with something for support. Sometimes I like to run, well, you know, I would have said I would have liked to have run a Demon Prince, but now that you can't have so many per list, I'm probably going to have to be more cagey. So, but I'd still have some kind of support with the Rhino, probably. Maybe some bloat drones, just so it's not completely on its own. And that's probably what I would do. Maybe a couple of 5-man squads, maybe another 2 squads of 5 to hang back on objectives. I'm normally not too worried because, again, you can use anything to hold objectives. It only really matters if somebody else is OBSEC, and you know, you got a reasonable amount of control over how many OBSEC units get into your battlefield. Most things that Deep Strike are not. So you really just got to keep an eye on maybe the few things your opponent has that is OBSEC and can also get behind your lines easily. But yeah, generally speaking, you'll probably be fine just with anything. Hellbrutes are good because they've got the fists and the las cannons, and as soon as anybody deep strikes down somewhere, you know, you can just charge them with the fist and normally clear them off an objective. If we're just talking about 5 assault marines or something, or even some terminators, you can probably get rid of them with just something like that. I think I've covered everything that I really wanted to talk about with the Plague Marines. This is mainly just because I think I spent too much time complaining about the weapons loadouts, which I'm not going to get back into now because there's at least 2 more Chaos Codexes and lots more time for me to complain about the same thing probably. Oh, the one thing I will actually say is that the Icon of Despair, it's not something I ever liked or took last edition, and I don't think it's going to be now, honestly. You know, it's another 10 points. You're already paying 10 points extra for the Chaos Sigil of Decay. I don't think you need to pay another 10 points just to maybe cause a mortal wound, 1 mortal wound on a 4+, in the morale phase for each enemy unit within engagement range. So, you know, how many units is that going to be? How many 4+s are you going to, and it's just 1 mortal wound even when you do make the 4+s. I don't think it's worth taking. It would have been nice if they changed it to some other effect, -1 leadership maybe, but yeah, that's how it is. I don't think it's worth taking personally. What I'm going to be doing in my games is just counting the Icons of Despair that I do have as these Sigils of Decay. Because again, I've said in my last video, I don't even know what's supposed to represent them. I've built a couple Plague Marine box sets, unless I'm completely forgetting a bit that I never used, but I think I would have used it. I really don't know what's supposed to be the Sigil of Corruption, Sigil of Decay. Let me know if you know if there's a model piece that I've missed out, but yeah, I'm just going to use my Icons of Despair as the Sigils of Decay because yeah, I'm certainly not going to buy the Icons, I don't think. It's not even like the summoning mechanic works by having to go by icons anymore like it used to. Anyway, I'm getting just rambling on now, so thank you, and hopefully I'll see you soon.